Hi, I'm Corey Allen with Reparations for Melrose. Today in this video, my wife Jane Allen will walk through the toolkit she has prepared to calculate for your city representation in schools.
Okay, thanks, Corey. So in this representation in schools toolkit, as in all our toolkits, you'll see a few things, a few standard things. One is an overview of the toolkit. Another thing is what we can learn from the data. Then a video tutorial on using the data, which is this that we're recording now, and then step-by-step instructions on using the data. So this toolkit was developed by Reparations for Melrose. We're a group working to end anti-Black systemic racism, and we're doing that in part by documenting racial harm with the goal of paving the way for reparations. So the idea behind this toolkit is to show people in municipalities across Massachusetts how to use state data to document racial harms in their own municipalities. And with the idea being that we can use that data across all the cities and towns to push for reparations at the state level and then at the federal level. On our website, you can find examples of the reports that we've written using these data, and we would love to get in touch with you. So if you have any questions or suggestions or corrections, or you want to share your data with us, that would be amazing. And you can reach us by emailing us at reparationsformelrose.com. So what can we learn from these data? The data that we're going to share today are from the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and they show the degree to which the racial composition of the teaching staff reflects the racial composition of the student body in municipalities within Massachusetts. So most children in Massachusetts go through their entire education having had only white teachers. This is a loss for all students, regardless of their race and ethnicity, but research shows it's particularly particularly harmful for Black students and other students of color, because when Black students and other students of color have teachers who look like them, they're more likely to thrive academically and graduate and aspire to college. And when they don't, they're more likely to receive exclusionary school discipline and have more negative outcomes. So it's really important that the teaching staff reflect and look like the student body in terms of race. Okay, so this is a placeholder for the video we're creating now. And now I'm going to go into the step-by-step instructions on using the data. So, I missed a slide. So the first thing we're going to ask you to do is to open up the sheet that we have prepared for you in which you'll analyze the data. So if you right-click on this link, you will open up a sheet that looks like this. And so there's a table shell, a figure shell that's not filled in, and we have some colored cells here that have 0 in them for values at this time. We're going to ask you to make a copy of the sheet and save it to your own computer. This sheet that we're providing to you is view only. So in order for you to use it to enter data in it and create the figure, you're going to need to save it down. I did that already.
Or make a copy to open in your own Google account. So if you want to stay in Sheets, making a copy will put it in your Google account. Downloading it as Excel would work also. But
if you have that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you so much, honey. That's a great point. So I did make a copy of it in advance of making this video just for the sake of saving time. But that is what you should do. And then we're going to ask you to go to the Massachusetts data. And so again, if you right click, it will open in a new tab. And this is what that website will look like. So to go back to the toolkit, we're going to have you click on Employed Educators, which is this navy oval here. You can see it here. And it opens this web page. So then we need to navigate to, you need to navigate to your own city or town. And you do that by entering the name of your city or town under where it says district. And I'll show you that now. So district. And you can actually just start typing in your city or town and then select it. And then it will take you to the data for the city or town of interest to you. Next, under race, ethnicity, we're going to have you select African American, Black. I'll show you that. So under race, ethnicity over here, we're going to have you select African American, Black. So at the race options, the race ethnicity options are all selected. When you open this, you can actually click select all and they'll all unselect just to make it a little easier for you. Otherwise, you can manually do each one. Then you click African American, Black, and you probably saw the data all updated to reflect only that population. So let's look at the data. So in this yellow box, you are seeing the number and percent of teachers and other school staff in your city or town who are Black. And so this box shows data for the past 3 years. So here we're seeing 2021, 2022, and 2023 data. And here for each year, there are 2 columns. The first column is the number, the count, and the second column is the percent. I'm going to go to the actual website and you can see it here, 2021, 2022, 2023. And here's the number and the percent. And you can see the rows, as I mentioned, are different jobs, different roles, administrators, teachers, paraprofessionals, other licensed people in the schools, and other non-licensed people in the schools. So in Melrose, in 2023, what we're seeing is that Melrose has reported having no Black teachers. And I'll show you the data. So 2023, this is the row for teachers, and Melrose is reporting no Black teachers, 0 and 0%. So I want you to write that number down. Write down the number of Black teachers in your city. And later we're going to enter this number into the sheet in the blue cell. So write down the number for you. Hopefully it won't be 0. And write down the word blue next to it. And that will help you to enter the data in the spreadsheet later. Okay, so now we're going to look at the comparison data for students. And we can do that by hovering your cursor over the button labeled Student Enrollment Comparison on the left-hand side of the screen. I'll show you what that looks like. Here it is. When I hover my cursor over it, you can see it pops up. And again, we see data for 2021, 2022, and 2023. And we're going to write down 5.5%, reflecting the 2023 data. So let's go back to the presentation. So again, this shows you that it's the data for the past 3 years. And that in Melrose in 2023, 5.5% of the student body was Black. The number's right here, 5.5%. So write that down, write down 5.5%, and we're going to, later, we're going to enter that number in the green cell. So right next to it, write green. Okay, so now we want to get some comparison data for white teachers and students. So we're going to go to race ethnicity again. We're going to uncheck African American, Black, and select white. And we're going to see this yellow table updates to reflect the white staff, including the teaching staff. And in Melrose reported that 96.7% of their teachers were white. Let me show you. So I'm unclicking African American and I'm clicking white. You can see the data updating. So now we have Melrose, we have white teachers. Here's the row for teachers. In 2023, we had 267 white teachers, and you write down 96.7%. That is the proportion of the teaching staff in Melrose that was white in 2023. So I want you to write that number down and write the word yellow next to it because we're going to enter it into the yellow cell in the sheet. And then we need to get the comparison data for students. So again, we're going to go hover over that box that says student enrollment, and we're going to write down the proportion of students that are white, and we're going to write the word orange next to it. Let me show you. So go to student enrollment, hover over it, it will fill. And then we're going to write down 75.7. That's the proportion of students that were white, and write the word orange next to it. Okay, this is just reiterating proportion of students that were white. So now we go to the sheet and enter the data into the appropriate cells, and the figure will be created automatically. Let's do that together. So I'm going into my own copy of the sheet. So for Black teachers, the number was 0.0%. So we're just going to leave that one alone. And then the Black students was 5.5%. So I'm just entering 5.5. And then for white teachers in the yellow cell, I wrote down 96.7. So I'm just entering 96.7. And then in the orange cell, I wrote 75.7 to reflect the student body, the white student body of Melrose. And you can see the figure will automatically populate for you and help you kind of visualize what that disparity looks like. So what we're seeing here is that we have so the blue bar is students and the red bar is teachers. So we have more white teachers than white students when you look at the proportions, and the opposite is true for Black students and teachers. 6% of rounding up, this figure rounds up. So 6% of the student body is Black, and there are no Black teachers in Melrose.
So the student,
They go,
I'm saying the students are part of a system where they do not see themselves in the workforce, in the same rates.
They may, you're mostly right. They may, the Black students may see themselves in the workforce, but not as teachers.
Right. I'm sorry.
So and just to underscore the importance of teachers in the classroom. But yes, you're basically right. That's the main finding, is that Black students are not seeing themselves in the classroom represented in the teaching staff. And so we just want to advise before you share your findings, that you check that you've selected the intended city or town, that you wrote down the data for the year that you intended to analyze, that you looked at the row that said teachers, unless you intended to look at a different row, which is totally fine. We're teaching you how to use the data, and hopefully you'll use them as you see fit. But for this analysis, we're looking at teaching staff, and just check your numbers and have someone else check your work. Always have someone else check your work. We have found that to be really valuable. So Corey, now we say, congratulations, you're ready to share your findings. But Corey, I do have, if you have a little energy to continue on, I wanted to share with people, what if they want to look at data beyond 3 years? Because this data source only shows data for the last 3 years. And you and I and our team at Reparations for Melrose have found it really valuable to look at data over time.
Sure.
And so, okay. So if you're okay to dive into that, I would like to just do that. It requires us going to a different data source. So I'm just going to right click and open that data source. And it is, if you did the Racial Inequities in School Discipline Toolkit, you will recognize this. So the first step is to enter your city or town, and then to click on the orange arrow to go to the data for your own city or town. And so I've entered Melrose, I've clicked on the orange arrow, and I've gone to Melrose. You can confirm this is Melrose. You see Melrose here and here. Next, we're going to go and click on the tab for teachers. So teachers, and this is the data for teachers. And then we're going to click on staffing data by race, ethnicity, and gender. It's, I think, the second row in that, it's the third row here. So here it is, staffing data by race, ethnicity, and gender. Click on that. And so this is the data for the staffing data by race, ethnicity, and gender for Melrose in 2023. And so it shows that in Melrose in 2023, so these data are a little different. They don't break the data out by teaching staff and administrators and paraprofessionals like the other data did. It includes everybody working in the school system. So in Melrose in 2023, 7 of the 506 full-time, it says staff members, it's actually the full-time positions. So there are 506 full-time positions, and 7 of those full-time positions were held by people who identify as Black. And so I just show you the math here at the bottom of this box, and it comes out to 1.4%. And then if you go back and click on students, you'll see, and you'll recognize these data, they haven't changed. They're the same in both data sources, that in Melrose in 2023, 5.5% of the students were Black. So if you want, you can click on this arrow to go back to data from previous years. And using these data, you can make a figure like this, which we did for Melrose. And it just shows that over time, and Corey, I think you've pointed this out, the population of the student body has become more Black over this period that we've looked at, but the teaching staff has remained basically the same in terms of their racial, in terms of the proportion of them that are Black.
Right. Yes. Yep.
So that's it. And if you have any questions, we welcome you to be in touch with us at reparationsformelrose@gmail.com.
I think one thing we always say is, these data tell a story. Just look at it first to see what story it is telling. It is what is as reported by the district to the state. So we are just analyzing this data and this data alone. We've had people say, well, this, maybe it's not we don't know. We're starting, the conversation begins with this analysis, and it's just a way to understand. And again, you've trended 10 school years, and we see a very similar story every year trended. So
consistency over time.
Yeah, exactly. All righty. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.